The cabin hummed with the usual pre-flight chatter, but seat 3A was a silent battleground. Evelyn Carter, a 42-year-old black woman in a tailored blazer that screamed Wall Street, didn't even glance up from her Harvard Business Review as the man loomed over her. His name was Brad Whitaker, mid-50s, sweat beading on his forehead despite the Arctic blast of the AC, his polo shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. "You're in my seat," he announced, waving a boarding pass that had been crumpled in his fist for way too long. Evelyn's diamond-studded watch glinted as she turned a page, her voice smooth as bourbon. "Funny. My ticket says 3A too." Brad's face flushed deeper than the sunset over Miami. "Listen, Karen, that's Ms. Carter," she corrected, finally looking up. The way she said it, like she was reminding a toddler of his manners, made the nearby passengers stiffen. A college student, Naomi Patel, slid her phone out discreetly. She'd seen this script before White Guy versus Black Woman, and the internet always ate it alive. Brad leaned in close enough for Evelyn to smell the stale coffee on his breath. "You people always pull this crap. Bet you upgraded with food stamps." The gasp from 3B was audible. Naomi's thumb hovered over the live button. Then, plot twist, the flight attendant, a no-nonsense Latina named Rosa Mendez, materialized like an Avenger in a headset. "Sir, step back now," Brad sputtered, but Rosa was already examining Evelyn's boarding pass. Her eyes narrowed. "Mr. Whitaker, you're in 3C. Window seat's yours, ma'am." Brad's mouth opened then shut like a fish. But Evelyn. She just crossed her legs, savoring the moment. "Oh, and Brad." She flashed a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "My blazer costs more than your car." Naomi hit post. The cabin erupted in applause. Somewhere a baby cried. And Brad. He slunk to his real seat, suddenly very interested in the safety manual. Funny how the universe balances the scales sometimes with a boarding pass, sometimes with 2 million TikTok views by takeoff. The air in the cabin thickened as Evelyn's fingers brushed the monogrammed leather of her briefcase MW, gleaming under the overhead light. Brad's smirk faltered when she unzipped it, not to leave, but to pull out a single sheet of paper. "Captain Brooks," she said, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "I think you'll want to see this before you ask me to move." The document bore the letterhead of Stratton Global, the airline's parent company. Jessica's phone, still live, zoomed in. The viewer count spiked to 500. Someone in 4B whispered, "Holy shit, that's the new CEO." Brad's face drained of color. That's a fake," he stammered, but the captain's posture stiffened as he scanned the paper. "Ms. Carter. Evelyn Carter." The name clicked. The Forbes cover last month. The woman reinventing air travel. Rosa, the flight attendant, bit back a grin. "Sir," she said to Brad, sweet as poisoned honey, "your actual seat is 32E, middle, near the lavatory." Then plot twist 2. Naomi stood up, her Stanford Law hoodie suddenly very visible. "Mr. Whitaker," she said loud enough for every phone in the cabin to catch, "you might want to Google defamation before your important meeting." She held up her screen, Brad's company website, Whitaker & Sons, with a diversity and inclusion banner front and center. The cabin erupted. A teenager in 12A started slow clapping. Brad looked like he might vomit. Evelyn didn't smile. She just slid the briefcase back, adjusted her blazer, and said, "Captain, I believe we're now 8 minutes behind schedule." The engines roared to life. Somewhere, a TikTok algorithm exploded, and Brad, he practically sprinted to row 32, his dignity trailing behind him like a broken carry-on wheel. Funny how karma flies first class. The tension in the cabin was so thick you could choke on it. Flight Supervisor Martinez's radio crackled. Security was 2 minutes out. Evelyn didn't move. Instead, she set her briefcase on the seat with deliberate calm, the click of the latch echoing in the silence. Then plot twist. The CEO of the airline, a silver-haired man in a navy suit, emerged from first class. He'd been watching the entire scene from his seat in 1A. "Captain Brooks," he said, voice cutting through the murmurs, "care to explain why my lead investor is being asked to deplane?" Brad's jaw dropped. Jessica's livestream hit 10K views in a heartbeat. The CEO, James Holloway, plucked the boarding pass from Martinez's clipboard. Ah, the duplicate assignment glitch. He turned to Brad Ice in his tone. "Mr. Whitaker, your reservation was canceled 48 hours ago for non-payment. You boarded with an invalid pass." A collective gasp rolled through the cabin. The businessman in 4C suddenly found his shoes fascinating. Evelyn finally spoke, her words measured. "James, I'd hate to delay this flight further." She glanced at Brad. "But perhaps Mr. Whitaker would like to explain to his Miami clients why he's about to miss his meeting and why he's trending on Twitter." Brad spluttered. "This is a setup." Then, plot twist 2, Rosa handed him a printout. "Sir, your real seat assignment." She paused. 32E, stand by." The cabin erupted in applause. Someone in economy yelled, "Bye, Felicia!" As security escorted a sputtering Brad off the plane, Holloway leaned toward Evelyn. "We'll comp your entire portfolio for this." Evelyn smiled for the first time. "Just upgrade Naomi to first class. She's got a brilliant future in corporate law." The engines roared. Jessica's phone died, battery obliterated by 15K live viewers. And as the plane finally taxied, one thought hung in the air. Never assume the quietest person in the room isn't the most powerful. Sterling's smirk froze as the cabin erupted in murmurs. The businessman in 4C suddenly stood up, knocking over his Bloody Mary. "Oh my God, the Maya Washington from the Fortune 500 list." His voice cracked mid-sentence. Maya didn't look up from her magazine. Page 27 if you're curious." Then, plot twist, the pilot's radio crackled. A frantic voice blared through. "Captain Corporate, just grounded all flights system-wide. They're saying something about a hostile takeover vote." Martinez's phone buzzed. "A Bloomberg Alert Meridian Group acquires 51% stake in Atlantic Airlines effective immediately." Sterling's knees buckled. He gripped the seat back like it was the last life raft on the Titanic. You can't just..." Maya finally closed her magazine. "Funny story. Your important meeting in Miami. It's with my mergers team. About your company's bankruptcy filing." She tilted her head. "Or didn't Whitaker Logistics tell you they're my subsidiary now?" Jessica's livestream hit 50K. A viewer commented, "She didn't just own the seat, she owned the whole airline." Then plot twist 2. The CEO's voice came over the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is James Holloway. Effective immediately, Ms. Washington has assumed control of Atlantic Airlines. Per her first executive order, Mr. Richard Sterling is hereby banned from all Meridian-owned carriers for life." The cabin exploded in cheers. A flight attendant popped champagne. Sterling turned ghost white as security approached. "Wait my luggage." Maya smiled. "Don't worry. We'll ship it to you." She paused. "Coach." As they dragged him off, Naomi leaned over from 3B. "So, does this mean free Wi-Fi for life?" Maya winked. "First round of mimosas is on me." The engines roared. Somewhere 1,000,000 phones shared the video. And as the plane finally took off, one thing was clear. Never bring ego to a power struggle, especially when the other person owns the battlefield. The silence in the cabin was deafening. Sterling's hands trembled as he gripped the headrest, his knuckles white. Then plot twist, the cockpit door swung open again. A young black co-pilot. Lieutenant Daniels stepped out holding an iPad. "Ma'am," he said to Maya, his voice steady. "Corporate just sent over the termination paperwork for Captain Brooks. Should I?" He trailed off, glancing at the ashen-faced captain. Maya waved a hand. "Not necessary. Captain Brooks just learned a $3.2 billion lesson today. She turned to Sterling. But you, Mr. Sterling, your company's contract with Transatlantic, the one worth $28 million annually. She pulled out another document. Consider it voided. Sterling made a sound like a deflating balloon. You can't. Oh, I can, Maya said. Clause 17B. Meridian reserves the right to terminate any vendor demonstrating discriminatory practices. And you, sir, just demonstrated beautifully. Jessica's livestream hit 100K. The Sterling got fired hashtag was trending. Then, plot twist 2, the intercom crackled. Attention passengers, came a new voice. This is First Officer Williams. In light of recent events, all drinks are complimentary today. And Mr. Sterling, your checked luggage is being offloaded as we speak. The cabin erupted. A flight attendant handed Maya a mimosa with a flourish. Compliments of the new management, she grinned. Sterling finally collapsed into his real seat, 32E middle, next to the screaming toddler as the engines roared to life. Maya leaned over her voice, just audible over the noise. Enjoy your flight, Richard. It's your last on my airline. As the plane accelerated down the runway, Jessica turned her camera to the window. Y'all, she whispered to her now viral audience, this is what happens when you bring prejudice to a power fight. And somewhere over the Atlantic, a certain CEO smiled as her phone buzzed with 60 Minutes interview requests. The cabin was so silent, you could hear Patricia's tears hit the floor. Maya let the moment hang her gaze sweeping across every stunned face before landing back on Sterling. Now, she said, pulling out a sleek tablet. Let's discuss real consequences. The tablet screen lit up with a live video feed, Sterling's actual boss at Whitaker Logistics, red-faced and sputtering. Richard, the man roared. You just cost us the transatlantic freight contract clean out your desk. The call ended abruptly. Sterling made a noise like a stepped-on mouse. Jessica's livestream hit 250K. Someone commented, Bro really tried to flex on a billionaire and lost his job in 4K. The cockpit door burst open again. A flight attendant rushed out holding a printed email. Ma'am, she gasped. The Department of Transportation just emailed they're launching an industry-wide discrimination investigation based on this incident. Maya nodded calmly. Good. Captain Brooks. The captain stood at attention. Yes, ma'am. You're grounded for retraining, effective immediately. She turned to Patricia, who flinched. And you get a promotion to lead our new diversity compliance team. Patricia's tears turned to stunned silence. Sterling finally cracked. This isn't fair. Maya leaned in her voice, a velvet knife. Fair is the 73-year-old Haitian grandmother you had removed from first class last month for smelling like curry. Fair is the black doctor you reported as suspicious for using the lavatory too often. She tapped her tablet. I have all your incident reports, Richard. The cabin erupted in applause. A kid in row 10 started chanting, Bye bye racist man. As security dragged Sterling away, Maya addressed the cameras, still rolling. To every person who's ever been told they don't belong, the seat is yours. The power is yours. And sometimes, she glanced at her diamond-encrusted watch, the whole damn airline is yours. The engines roared. Jessica's phone died, her battery obliterated by 500K live viewers. And as the plane finally took off, 3 things became clear. 1. Maya Washington didn't just own the airline, she owned the moment. 2. Richard Sterling would forever be internet infamous. 3. And corporate America just got a masterclass in exactly what happens when you bring bias to a billion-dollar boss fight. The cabin hung in suspended silence as Maya's words settled over everyone like a heavy fog. Patricia's hands trembled as she clutched her radio, her tear-streaked makeup smudging the collar of her uniform. Sterling stood motionless, his earlier bluster reduced to the shaky breathing of a man who just realized he'd signed his own professional death warrant. Then the cockpit door burst open. A young black co-pilot, Lieutenant Daniels, strode out, holding an iPad aloft like a torch. "Ma'am," he announced, voice ringing with vindication. Corporate just forwarded the termination notice for Captain Brooks's direct supervisor. The VP of Operations resigned 3 minutes ago. A collective gasp rippled through first class. The businessman in 4C dropped his whiskey. Maya didn't even look up from her magazine. "How unfortunate for him," she murmured, turning a page. "Though I suspect the class action lawsuit from last quarter's discrimination complaints might have foreshadowed this." Her manicured finger tapped a paragraph. "Jessica, be a dear and zoom in on this section for your viewers. The part where Meridian's stock price jumped 18% after we acquired Transatlantic. Jessica's livestream viewer count shattered 300,000. The comments moved too fast to read a blur of queen and holy shit emojis. Sterling made a last desperate lunge toward Maya. "You can't just watch me," Maya said, finally meeting his gaze. The ice in her voice made the cabin temperature drop. "While you were busy harassing me, my legal team was dissolving your company's cargo contract. Your former HR director just confirmed 7 prior discrimination complaints against you." She tilted her head. "Tell me, Richard, do golf courses count as workplaces when you're making racist jokes to clients?" The intercom crackled to life. "Attention, passengers," came a new voice dripping with satisfaction. "This is First Officer Williams. In light of today's events, all passengers will receive lifetime platinum status. Except Seat 3C, enjoy your middle seat in row 32, sir." As the cabin erupted in cheers, Maya reached into her briefcase and produced a single embossed card. She handed it to Jessica. "My personal number. When Stanford bores you, call me about that corporate law internship." The engines roared to life as security dragged Sterling away, his protests drowned out by the sound of 150 passengers applauding. Somewhere over Georgia, a viral hashtag was born. Black girls fly higher. And as Maya Washington sipped her champagne, the diamond on her finger catching the light like a wink, the entire aviation industry learned 2 truths. 1. Never judge a billionaire by her skin. 2. Some checkmates come with a first-class upgrade. The hum of the engines filled the tense silence as Maya's pen hovered over her legal pad. Jessica's phone, now propped against her tray table, showed 200,000 live viewers watching history unfold at 30,000 feet. "Let me be crystal clear," Maya said, her gold pen tapping the $380 million loss calculation. "This isn't about punishing individuals. It's about rebuilding systems." She slid a document across the galley counter, a press release drafted mid-flight announcing Transatlantic's new Diversity Equity Initiative. "Effective tomorrow, we're allocating $50 million to fund minority aviation scholarships and promote black pilots." Captain Brooks's head snapped up. "But our training budget is being tripled," Maya finished. "And Lieutenant Daniels," she gestured to the young co-pilot still hovering nearby, "he'll be taking your next flight as captain. Consider it a field test of our new promotion protocols." A champagne cork popped in first class as passengers toasted Daniels's sudden promotion. Back in row 32, Sterling flinched at the sound, his face pressed against the window like a child banished to time out. Martinez hesitated. "Ms. Washington, the union contracts will be renegotiated," Maya said, producing another document. "Starting with doubling pay for flight attendants who report discrimination incidents." She turned to Patricia, whose tears had streaked her perfect airline makeup. "And Patricia, you're getting a seat at the design table for our new training programs. 22 years of experience shouldn't go to waste." Jessica's viewer count hit 300,000 as Maya dropped her final bombshell. "Oh, and we're buying Whitaker Logistics' remaining assets at 30 cents on the dollar." She smiled sweetly. "Their board just accepted my offer mid-flight. Seems Richard's little performance impacted their valuation." As the plane broke through the clouds, sunlight flooded the cabin, glinting off Maya's diamond watch and the stunned expressions of the crew. Somewhere below, a Fortune 500 company crumbled, an aviation giant transformed, and a viral justice moment took flight, all before the seatbelt sign turned off. The lesson: never bring bias to a business battle, especially when your opponent owns the battlefield, the rulebook, and now, thanks to 300,000 live witnesses, the court of public opinion. The cabin lights flickered as turbulence jostled the plane, but Maya stood perfectly balanced, her Louboutins planted firmly on the galley floor. She tapped her phone screen, revealing a live dashboard, 47,000 shares, 12 million impressions, and climbing. "Right now," she said, her voice cutting through the hum of the engines, "every major news outlet is dissecting how transatlantic handles racial discrimination. Let's give them something revolutionary to report." She swiped to a sleek appy prototype. The Sky Justice reporting system launches Monday. Passengers can document incidents in real-time video-audio witness statements sent directly to our new Civil Rights Task Force. Her gaze locked onto Captain Brooks. And yes, that task force will have subpoena power over executive decisions. Martinez's pen froze mid-note. "That's unprecedented." "So was having a black woman own your airline," Maya countered. "Yet here we are." Her phone buzzed again. A Wall Street Journal alert: Whitaker Logistics stock plummets 63% after viral discrimination video. Jessica gasped as her own phone lit up with a notification. "Ms. Washington, your legal team just filed a motion to depose Transatlantic's entire C-suite." Maya's smile was razor sharp. "Due diligence. We found 3 prior discrimination complaints buried in HR files, all against our dear captain here." She turned to the ashen-faced pilot. "Funny how they never made it to the board until today." The intercom crackled. "Attention, passengers," came Lieutenant Daniels's voice, now thick with pride. "We're making an unscheduled stop in Atlanta. The DOJ has requested Mr. Sterling's immediate appearance. Apparently his important meeting is now with federal investigators." As cheers erupted through the cabin, Maya handed Patricia a tissue and a business card. "My chief diversity officer starts next week. You'll be training under her. Consider it your crash course in corporate accountability." Somewhere over Alabama, as Sterling was escorted off the plane in handcuffs and the first tweets about Sky Justice went viral, the most powerful lesson took flight. When you weaponize privilege against the wrong person, you don't just lose the battle, you redefine the entire war. The descent into Miami felt like the entire plane was holding its breath. Maya's phone buzzed continuously. Wall Street Alerts Media requests a personal text from the Attorney General reading, "We need to talk before your CNN interview tomorrow." She silenced it with one manicured finger, watching the city lights grow brighter through the window. Then her tablet pinged with an incoming video call. The screen flashed, "Live NBC Nightly News." Jessica nearly dropped her phone when Lester Holt's face appeared. "Ms. Washington, millions are watching this historic moment. Any comment before we land?" Maya angled the camera to show the stunned crew. "Just this, Lester Transatlantic Airlines will become the first carrier to tie executive bonuses to diversity metrics. Starting tomorrow, if our inclusion scores drop, so do their paychecks." Captain Brooks choked on his coffee. The cabin erupted in applause as Holt pressed, "And the viral video showing your confrontation." Maya's smile didn't reach her eyes. What America saw today wasn't an anomaly. It's the daily reality for black travelers. But here's the twist. She tapped her screen, revealing a real-time stock ticker. While Whitaker Logistics Burns Transatlantic just gained $400 million in market cap from our policy announcements. She leaned closer to the camera. "Turns out justice is very profitable." As the wheels touched down, a new notification flashed. "DOJ approves merger, conditional on Maya Washington, chairing new Aviation Civil Rights Task Force." Jessica's dying phone captured the final moment, Maya straightening her blazer as the cabin lights brightened her reflection, shimmering in the darkened window like a ghost of corporate America's future. The lesson etched across 25 million social media shares by touchdown was brutal in its simplicity. You can either adapt to the new world or get left on the tarmac. The late afternoon sun streamed through Maya's corner office windows, glinting off the framed fortune cover, declaring her, "The disruptor corporate America didn't see coming." She set down the quarterly report and studied Sterling, his tailored suit, now slightly frayed at the cuffs, his once ruddy complexion pale from 6 months out of the country club circuit. "Before you give me that," she said, nodding at the letter, "you should know we just acquired your former company's remaining assets." She slid a folder across the glass desk. "Page 12 shows your ex-CFO testifying about the racist jokes you made at last year's sales conference." Sterling's hands trembled. I didn't realize." "That's the problem," Maya interrupted. "You never do." She stood, her silhouette cutting across the Miami skyline. "But since you're here..." She pressed a button on her desk. The screen behind her lit up with footage of Sterling speaking at a juvenile detention center, his voice cracking as he told black teens about his reckoning. Jessica Chen, now with a Vice Media badge around her neck, leaned forward from her chair in the corner. "Your redemption tour's getting 1/100th of the views your meltdown did," she noted dryly. "Algorithms brutal like that." Sterling's letter fell to the desk like a surrender flag. "What do you want from me?" Maya smiled. "Your testimony before Congress next week. The Aviation Equality Act needs Republican votes." She tapped the folder. "Do this, and we'll settle the Whitaker lawsuit for just your golden parachute, not your beach house." As Sterling stammered his agreement, Maya's phone lit up with a New York Times alert. "Washington named first black female chair of FAA advisory board." Jessica's camera caught the exact moment Sterling noticed the headline, his face, a masterpiece of dawning realization that the woman he'd tried to eject from 3A now controlled the entire playing field. The lesson: some checkmates take 6 months. Some take a single flight. But the smartest players know when the game was rigged in their favor all along. The golden Miami sunset painted Maya's office in warm hues as she leaned back in her chair, the Seat 3A Emmy statue glinting beside her laptop. Sterling's apology letter lay open next to a check, the ink still damp, made out to the Washington Scholars Fund. She tapped her Mont Blanc pen against the desk, watching the live feed of Congress, where Sterling, now sporting a silver-streaked beard and a Diversity Matters lapel pin, testified before the Transportation Committee. "Let the record show," Sterling said, his voice steady for the first time in years, "that systemic bias isn't just harmful, it's expensive. Transatlantic's stock surge proves inclusion is profitable." The C-SPAN comments exploded with applause emojis. Across the room, Jessica, now with a Peabody Award on her shelf, adjusted her headset as she directed her documentary crew. "Get this shot," she whispered. "The woman who changed aviation is watching the man who tried to erase her rewrite history." Maya's phone buzzed. A text from the White House: FAA chair nomination clears committee. Full Senate vote next week. She didn't smile, just forwarded it to Patricia, now Transatlantic's chief inclusion officer, with a single note: Phase 2 begins Monday. The real victory wasn't in the headlines or the stock prices. It was in the quiet moments, like when a young black girl in 32F snapped a selfie with the first female pilot of color Maya had hired, or when the Dignity in Flight training video featuring Sterling's meltdown played at every corporate retreat. As the congressional feed cut to commercial, Maya stood smoothing her tailored blazer. Outside her window, a transatlantic jet taxied with "Equity Flies Here" emblazoned on its fuselage. The lesson echoed in the roar of its engines. You can spend a lifetime building walls, or one defiant moment tearing them down. The screen fades to black, leaving only 3 words glowing in the darkness: document, disrupt, transform. A beat of silence. Then real footage from last week plays. A black teenager in a Detroit airport, phone raised as a gate agent, demands she wait her turn while white passengers cut ahead. The girl doesn't argue, just taps her Sky Justice app and watches the agent's expression change when the notification pings corporate HQ in real time. Cut to Maya's TED Talk closing line. They told Rosa Parks to move to the back. They told me to leave my seat. What they'll tell you doesn't matter, only what you choose to do next. The video ends with a call to action, not a hashtag, but a blueprint. 1. Record your phone is a weapon. No. Report apps. Chiasi Sky Justice. Transatlantic.com. 3. Rebuild. Join our policy task force. Because the most radical truth Maya proved. You don't need $1 billion to fight bias, just one unshakable refusal to move.